Hi, everybody. I'm Donna Norris, Soul Level Intuitive.
Hi, and I'm Bree Swanson from Small Medium at Large.
And today we're here to talk to you a little bit about sourcing crystals. I know a lot of us live in cities, we have choices and we have stores that we can go to, and some of us don't, we don't have those options. So for those times when you can go into a store, I always recommend, if you see it or you feel drawn to one or it feels really good in your hand, before you buy it, if you're not familiar with that store and you're not familiar with this merchant, ask them how they source these materials. Where do they get them? How are they mined? What country do they come from? Find out what they know about them. Because it's really, in my opinion, counterproductive if you're going to use these crystals for manifesting or healing work or anything like that, to source a crystal that has been blasted out of the earth, that's been mined in that way, or that has been mined using slave labor, which is unfortunately very common in some parts of the world. So it's good to know where it comes from and just kind of familiarize yourself with it, because you may find that what feels good to you in the store, when you get it home, all of a sudden it just doesn't have the right energy anymore, and it's not doing for you what you hoped. And a lot of that comes from the way it was taken from the earth, the way it was harvested. So Bree, what do you have to offer on that? I know online is a whole other game, but
It's a whole other ball game. It really is. But I mean, the best thing you can do, I mean, especially for buying online, is to ask a lot of questions, especially if you get a weird feeling about the seller. Because even the way that they write back will tell you something about them or about how they handle their business. Um, and it's really interesting buying online because I mean, I know we literally just said it's a whole different ballgame, but it is.
yeah.
When you're able to go into a shop, you can, pick and choose what's there. But it's hard to pick and choose what's there if in your mind you have a specific crystal and they simply don't have it at the store. So that's where at least my my shopping has kind of evolved a little bit as far as like picking crystals and whatnot. Yeah, don't go too crazy. I mean, you can, you can if you want, but like, don't just be try to be mindful about what you purchase and why you're purchasing it, and maybe take like a moment or two to connect with yourself and your energy before making that, because crystal buying can be really, really fun. But
Yeah.
yeah, try to try to not be too impulsive when you're buying. Um,
Can
maybe sit
also be
down and
really disappointing, when what you think is about this size comes in and it's about this size.
yeah, yeah. So, and especially if it's online, I mean, too, I feel like it's really beneficial to go ahead and maybe make like an idea list or a wish list and really take your time soaking in, because all the crystals look different. They all feel different. So at least when I go through Etsy, Etsy is my shop or the place that I go for some really good trusted sellers that I really like. I'll even mention a few later on. Um, but I mean, these sellers, they really, they take the photo, everything looks right. It's what you see is what you get essentially. And there's so many different types of crystals, even within the
Yeah.
same, the same crystal. Like one carnelian looks different than the next carnelian. So it's really just asking yourself and figuring out what you need and what would work best for what you're doing, of course.
How you want to use it. Yeah.
Yeah.
You can get them rough, you can get them tumbled, which is just where they're not so sharp, but they still have kind of a natural look to them, feel to them. You can get them, actually cut, faceted. And there's a difference too, like in faceted crystals, Some crystals are naturally faceted, like quartz crystals come with 7 facets before it reaches a point. And somebody will tell you that this 4-faceted, probably apophyllite, is actually a clear quartz crystal, and it's not. So, you have to know a little bit about what you're looking at as well if you're looking at things online, well, even in
Yeah.
person. Yeah. But
And I mean, if you're new too, it can be easy to get like blinded and everything because there's so much out there, and maybe there's a specific crystal you like, but it's kind of hard to differentiate. So I know that there's YouTube videos online even for like moldavite, for example, and all the
Mhm.
differences between real moldavite and fake moldavite. So really kind of doing your research as a buyer is also incredibly important. Um, and definitely going into yourself and asking yourself, what do you need and why do you need it is incredibly
Yeah.
important as well.
You can check the reviews on brick and mortar stores as well as online sellers too. So before you
Yes.
go, especially if you're considering a rather expensive crystal or something like that, a prize piece, check out the reviews on these places before you go and plunk down all that money to make sure that you're getting something that is what they say it is.
Yeah.
That you know your crystal well enough, to be able to make that choice. And then if it comes right down to it, and like you're in a good store, you know the people, you know what you're looking for, and there's 2 of them, or there's 3 of them, and they're all gorgeous, and they're all singing your song. What are you going to do? How are you going to choose? And because there's just, time to get one, or room to get one today. We wanted to give you some options too on how you can use divination to help if you are not getting a clear signal from your guides or from your higher self as to which one is for you. Where you want to kick off with some of your thoughts on that and how you can
Yeah.
choose.
Yeah. So what you could do is sometimes, I mean, if you feel up to it, you can try muscle testing. There's like 7 different ways that you can use muscle testing to identify what you truly need inside. It taps into the subconscious mind and allows the answers to open up within
Mhm.
us. And um, and it can be really clarifying when you practiced it and you've done it properly. And when you do muscle testing, you can always the best thing you can do is to relax as you're doing it and stay hydrated, because that can kind of skew things a little bit. And I've also found too, sometimes it helps when somebody else asks you the questions instead of you, especially if you're first starting out with muscle testing, because sometimes you can get a little subjective. Um, so having that extra person can kind of help, you know.
And so one of the ways you can do muscle testing is I like to take my second finger and my thumb, and then take the second finger and the other thumb and lock them together, and then ask a yes or no question. And you can start with a test question. Say like, okay, I'm originally from Texas. So I am from Texas. Yes or no? Yes. I am from Ohio. Yes or no? No, obviously. You couldn't tell from the accent. You could definitely tell from the muscle test. I'm just kidding. But so that's one way. There's another way. You can hold out your arm
Yep,
and
you
then
can.
say, is this the crystal for me? And if it is, your arm will stay stiff. And
It
if
will
it's
lock.
not, your arm will go down.
Mm-hmm.
So is this the right choice? Well, okay,
Yeah.
well, you put that on the side, and then you put the next crystal that you're trying to decide on and ask the same question and see how that goes. They're really good ways to help you feel confident that you're getting the one that's most energetically linked to you and for what you want to use it for.
Yeah.
So, there's another quick divination tool that you can use, and that is, I don't know if any of you are familiar, most probably are, with pendulums. This is a nice little wooden pendulum that I gotten, and you can use it, you wrap it around your finger like this, and hold your elbow steady if you can rest it on the counter at the store, or in this case on my desk, and just say, you ask a yes or no question again, and ask it to tell you which way means yes. So in this way, I already know this pendulum. So back and forth, front to back is a yes. And then you ask it, am I from Ohio? And you can see now it's going side to side. It's got a no. And you can even bring it to a standstill in between the questions. Bring it right back to a standstill. And then ask another question. Try to buy a gift and you can't decide what to get somebody. It's like, should I get them this? Should I get them the aftershave? You know, that kind of thing. It's good. It's really good. It works. It works.
Oh,
I think that's really all I wanted to cover with everybody. I just wanted to talk a little bit about sourcing crystals. I get a lot of questions about that, and I'm not trying to certainly dissuade anybody. It's so much fun to go and shop, and the energy in a crystal store feels like having just, I don't know, a massage or an energetic bath. And so I
spiritual
really
bed.
enjoy that. And one of the biggest ways that I like to test them in person is to put them in my, dominant hand. And, for me, I'm left-handed, so this is my dominant hand. And then you can put it in your receptive hand. And different crystals, as Bree has said before, have different energies. Some crystals are about bringing things in. So like receiving abundance, receiving healing, receiving things. So then you would want to put it in your receiving hand and test it out.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And so
And
if you,
even,
oh, go ahead. Go
oh,
ahead.
and even the same type that, like, if you have two carnelians, one is going to feel different than the other.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then so if you've got a crystal that's sort of like protection or grounding or those kinds of things, that's an outgoing energy. It's not more, it's a projecting type of energy. So you want to try it in your dominant hand first. That's a good way to help you make a decision about crystals as well. How does it feel? Does your hand warm up? Does it feel just like it's molded just for your palm? That's a really good way to choose. And I wouldn't start out with a whole bunch of expensive ones. You can go to crystal stores where you can get crystals for $1 to $2 and start your collection that way. I always like to start out with colors that go through the major chakras. Get a red jasper or some kind of red coral for your root chakra, then a carnelian or an orange calcite for your sacral chakra, and then, a citrine or a yellow calcite or a honey amber for the solar plexus. And then you can do like a green fluorite or a malachite or an emerald for the heart chakra. Or you can also do a rose quartz if you want to do a pink stone for the heart chakra. You can use either one. And then going into the throat chakra, I like to use a light blue, icy blue stone. You can do, gosh, any number of things like kunzite or angelite. I use angelite a lot for the throat chakra. And then for the what I call the ears and eyes, lapis or sodalite, a dark blue, and then amethyst, of course, for the crown. And then I always like to get a clear quartz for that chakra that's above your crown chakra as like the booster. I like to do that's a great set and a great way to have fun if you're just starting out with your collection. Do you have
Yeah.
any other tips and tricks, Bree? I know you
Yeah.
have exposure to a crystal store a lot of the time, so.
Yeah. So it's nice because we're able to kind of like pick up the tumbles and kind of see what works. Um, I highly recommend small businesses. I know that the one in Florida that I use is called Stone Soup ISC in Florida in the Fort Walton Beach area. So if you're nearby, come check it
Cool.
out. It's a good store. Um, and then there's other small businesses online that I highly recommend. From Etsy, I absolutely love Spirit Body Bliss. She has some really unique crystals, really unique jewelry. Another shop that's really good too is called Crystals in the Wild from Etsy. And then I also love for the crystals that are a bit more smaller, but I really like how I believe her name is the owner of Vintage Fairy Finds. Her name is Crystal. Um,
Oh,
but she's really sweet. She always includes like a little tiny like gift with everything. Because she even mentions on her little bio too that like she loves having like little extras in the mail as well. So she makes sure that she includes something small, and her stuff is reasonably priced, and you can get pretty reasonably priced things up over there too. So those are like my favorite go-to shops for sure. I'd also know the Dolma bead shop on Etsy. They have a Nepali based artisan there that they go ahead and they carve the crystal necklaces, and they'll
oh,
carve it into like, I have one that's like of a moon. So it's like a crescent agate moon and it has like a little druzy in there, but it's beautiful. And then I've got an evil eye that's like a pearl, a mother of pearl evil eye from them too. But they have some really cool stuff as well.
and that's
Yeah.
Dolma, Dolma,
Dolma, yeah, Dolma bead shop on Etsy.
BEAD, beads, like little
Yeah,
beads. Yeah, just
yeah,
want to
bead shop.
get it
Yeah.
really good. And there's a place on Facebook that I like for those of you who will feel like jumping over to Facebook, and it's called Crystal Dragonfly. And she has a lot of all, ethically sourced products and lots of different gift ideas, as well as stumbled and polished stones and faceted stones and things like that. So she has some really neat stuff too. And she does flash sales a lot. So you can join her on Facebook, I know for sure, and probably Crystal Dragonfly has a website. I'm just not sure of the name. Anyway, want to give you a couple of tips. And happy hunting. We'll see you next time. Thanks for stopping in.